We continue our Fox 8 investigation tonight into repeat offenders. The NOPD says it's tired of arresting the same suspects over and over again, only to find them back out on the streets.
Natasha Robin takes us through the history of yet another alleged criminal who's now facing a first-degree murder charge.
She was truly everybody's baby, you know. And me personally, I really made a big fuss about her.
Mariah Woods was in her prime, a young journalism major about to begin her first year of college after graduating from Xavier Prep. Her life, though, came to a screeching halt on January 8th. Her uncle, Leo Joseph Young, can hardly believe she's gone.
It's just hard to come out here sometimes. It's never been nothing like this.
She was out with some friends, and they were on their way back to another friend's house, and they just happened to get caught up in a police chase.
Police say they were chasing this man, Edward Augustine, and his passenger down a one-way street.
And so happened my daughter was on the passenger side, and they hit her dead on.
Woods died instantly.
It's like half of my heart was gone.
Police say Augustine was driving a stolen car and was arrested for manslaughter, including several traffic violations that stem from the chase. Investigators say they also found dope in the vehicle. Augustine's arrest was just the latest in a criminal history that few could comprehend.
Here's Edward Augustine's rap sheet. His rap sheet is so long, as I fan it out, you won't be able to put that on TV because it'll take up too much time. That's his rap sheet. Why, as a community, are we tolerant of this?
At just 22 years old, Augustine's adult arrest record shows that the NOPD dealt with him more than 50 times.
How does that happen? The police can't always be wrong with their arrest. Every arrest can't be bad.
Our criminal justice system should have done something. We could have saved someone's life had this person been prosecuted more aggressively in the past.
Augustine turned 17 in December of 2004. 6 months later, police arrested him on drugs and weapons charges. Judge Linda Van Davis found him not guilty. Over the next 2 years, police arrested Augustine 3 more times. In July of 2005, possession of marijuana. In April of 2006, possession with the intent to distribute cocaine. In April of 2007, drugs and weapons. All of those cases were refused by then DA Eddie Jordan.
You have a person that's come into the system repeatedly for narcotics violations, for gun violations, more narcotics. Again, you see the history. Again, anyone who's been in criminal justice for any period of time, you know you put the guns and the drugs together, it's going to equal a violent criminal act, and that's exactly what you see here.
DA Leon Canizero can't tell us why the charges were refused, simply because the refusals happened before he was in office. He does believe, though, the refusals gave Augustine a pass to continue breaking the law.
If you don't look at that offender and try to prevent him from coming back into the system, you may well be creating an armed robber 1 or 2 years down the road. Or even worse, you may be creating someone who's going to commit a murder.
Police again arrested Augustine in September of 2007 on a gun and drug charge. Police say he committed a murder 2 months later in December in the 5800 block of Tullis Drive. Augustine soon became Crime Stoppers' most wanted man, and his picture appeared on billboards around the city. He was eventually captured in Colorado and extradited to New Orleans. While in jail, he went to court on that September gun and drug charge. Augustine pled guilty, and Judge Dennis Waldron sentenced him to 2 years in jail. In the meantime, DA Eddie Jordan refused the charges of first-degree murder from the Tullis Drive incident. Augustine, though, remained in jail on that gun and drug charge and wasn't supposed to get out until May of 2010. Instead, he was released early for good time.
Why do they keep getting out without having to serve the full effect of truth in sentencing? Why do they keep getting chances? I don't know. But the police will never run from our responsibility.
Police arrested him again in September of 2009. This time for resisting arrest. simple escape, battery of a police officer, and unauthorized entry into an inhabited dwelling. D.A. Canizero accepted 2 of the felony charges. Augustine stayed in jail until his bond was reduced by Judge Linda Van Davis. On March 12th, Augustine posted bond and was back out on the street. On March 20th, 2 people were gunned down in Jefferson Parish. Augustine was the suspected shooter. Police arrested him the next day in New Orleans, and he was transferred to Jefferson. He was booked on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Jefferson Parish DA Paul Connick refused the charges, stating that the witnesses were not credible and that evidence pointed to a self-defense claim.
No consequences is coming forward for what's going on. You're in and you're out, and you're back to doing whatever you was doing before. So if you could go to jail for a minor crime, but I could get away with this, I could get away with this, I could keep going up and up the ladder.
The next time Augustine showed up on the NOPD's radar was in January of this year, during a chase where he allegedly crashed head-on into the car carrying Mariah Woods.
Something wrong with the system, and it needs to be fixed. But when will that be? That's a question too.
But see, it's too late for us. It can't be fixed in our eyes. It's too late. You know, our little baby dead.
The Woods family calls the criminal justice system broken.
Our judicial system need to be on the same page with the police, the district attorney's office, the judges. All of them need to be on the same page with these young men who continually being arrested.
But the simple truth is, after they're arrested, we become the weakest player in the system.
Chief Ronald Serpez is frustrated and says the police can only make arrests. It's up to the DA's office and the courts to make sure the alleged criminals stay in jail. DA Canizero says his office is now accepting 85% of cases. He says the past DA accepted about 50%.
We've got to do a better job as a criminal justice system to prevent the Edward Augustines from getting out, from making this a revolving door process. He's had opportunities, countless opportunities, to turn himself around. It's very difficult when you have to explain to a parent of a deceased child that this person was in the system, but the system didn't do what it was supposed to do to prevent him from doing a very horrible thing to someone who is very close to you.
Edward Augustine remains in jail. The charges against him for allegedly killing Mariah Woods are still pending. If convicted, though, he faces up to 80 years in prison.
Now, you mentioned Judge Linda Van Davis a couple of times in this story, and you had judges in the previous story. You reached out to her today, right?
We reached out to all of the judges mentioned, and the only judge that got back to us was Judge Lori White.
Right. You know, you highlight a few of these cases, but you wonder how many more are out there just like this that you just don't know about.
And these are just 3 names that we pulled, and we decided to look into their criminal history, and this is what we found. And this is a case where refusals really played a big role in Edward Augustine's criminal history from the refusals from the DA's office.
The most telling part was the police chief going through all
the
of
arrest
these,
record.
Wow.
So long.
Frustrating.
Thanks a lot, Natasha.